Hello everyone, and welcome back to another relaxing episode of Raining Souls ASMR. As you can see, I have with me here every single English One Piece manga volume. That's volume 1, somewhere here, to volume 112, the most recent release. So we are going to fill up this entire shelf with One Piece manga. Hopefully, they all fit. It is a pretty big shelf, but this is a lot of manga. So get comfy like me. Grab a blanket, grab a pillow, grab a coffee, settle in, sit back, and relax as we rank every single One Piece volume cover. Okay, there are over 100 manga volumes that we are going to be ranking today. So we better get started with the very first volume, Volume 1. Let's first do some nice dusting to get off all of that dust and make it look nice and spick and span and brand new. Let's take a look at how these One Piece covers are designed. You have a very, very unique title design with One Piece. The Jolly Roger, Straw Hat Jolly Roger, in the middle of the O. And then a Luffy silhouette for the I. And then an anchor for the E with the rope wrapping all the way around into the Jolly Roger's mouth. And in the back of every single volume there is a map in a monochromatic style, almost like a bitmap, a little bit sketchy tones. In the back here really fills out some negative space that would be here if this wasn't. Especially in the first volume, considering there is no frame breaking anywhere. So there's no Nami arm coming over the frame with the railing also going over. So because this map is here, really fills out what would otherwise be very blank space. So, what do I think about the first volume? I think it's okay. I don't think it's the most dynamic, but I do like the overall design they went for. In quadrants, title, box with an image, bottom with the story and art by Ichiro Oda, Volume 1. I think to make this volume a little bit better, I would have added some frame breaking with maybe Zoro's arm continuing the boat maybe all the way down here. That way you get rid of this tangent right here with Nami's boot and the frame. as well as Zoro's knee and the frame right here as well. I do like the coloring and the inking, and every pose is very dynamic, so the illustration is picking up the slack of where the overall volume is lacking in slightly less dynamic ways. Coloring is good. Every character stands out. It was a good choice to have white be the main background and not blue for the sky. That way Luffy stands out. So, overall, I do think it's okay for a first volume, albeit slightly boring. So I will give it a high C in terms of our tier list. Again, that doesn't mean it's bad, it just means there are a lot more better volume covers coming up. And as if Oda immediately realized what would make these covers better, he designed a frame break in the very next volume. Frame in the background, Buggy, Kabachi, Momoji coming over the frame, and Luffy staying in the background with his hat being cut off here. I do love the choice of green. I think it's very striking. The composition is simple, not too cluttered. Some of his later volumes do get a little bit cluttered. This one is not. I would have liked to have seen what it would look like if Luffy's hat was also on top of the frame, because I do think there is some slight negative space that is empty right here, but I do think it is a improvement on the last volume, still sticking with white in the background and not blue. I think that is still a great choice. Makes the characters come to the foreground and the background staying in the back. No clear tangents anywhere that halt the eye. Colors a little bit too similar. Everyone has the same skin tone and slight, simple, warm colors, but I think it's offset by the green. Warm colors plus green are contrasting colors, so they really stand out together. Overall, much better than the first one. I will give this our first B tier for volume 2. It looks like in these first few volumes, Oda was experimenting with different compositions. First volume, very simple. Second volume, frame breaks. And third volume, dynamic posing. Look at this cape. Just flowing in the wind here. With some nice foreshortening of the front of this small boat. Zoro quite clearly in front. Luffy behind him with some great flowing cape illustration, using green for the background to contrast the red here. Simple white stand out, especially Zoro's pants. Interesting choice for a red map background, because there is a lot of red already, but I do think it works. Is this one better than the last? I would say they're about very similar. I do like how the cape is all chaotic, but I think the frame keeps everything contained so it doesn't get too messy. I think this is very strong. I will give this one a B as well. And now we're back to a cover where everything is contained within the frame, similar to number 1. I'm not sure how well it works. I don't quite like what's happening here. I think it's just slightly awkward. I would have liked to have seen maybe the claw coming over the frame in a sort of opposing, intimidating way, almost looming over Luffy down here. But I think what really saves this cover is the colors. The colors are absolutely phenomenal. I love the blue and the orange background with the moon. That is such a unique version of a sunset. It's almost sundown, like a grand battle is about to take place, and Luffy, all in cool colors for the background down here, contrasting our villains at the top. Blue background for the map, I think works really well as well, contrasting the orange here. Blue and orange are contrasting, complementary colors, so they really stand out. It is a bit awkward, Luffy's hat being cut in half. It's almost like they're standing on his hat. Just a little bit of an awkward drawing. I don't think it's as strong as our last two. I think I'm gonna have to give it our least ranked volume so far, but I don't dislike it. I just don't think it's as strong as the last 3. And I think the first one is just a little bit more iconic. So we will give this one a middle C tier. Now, this one reminds me a lot of Volume 1. If Volume 1 had frame breaks in it, there is a slightly annoying tangent that's happening here. A tangent is when 2 opposing lines intersect almost perfectly and line up. It is a taboo in the art world because it makes your eye go to it in sort of a cross form, almost like a target. And coming down here, there is another tangent with Nami's staff intersecting again with the frame. And here, almost with Usopp and Zoro's foot. It's just awkward for the eye, because the eye can't tell if it's supposed to be over the frame frame, over, or inside. And I think it would have been better if Usopp's hand was just, or finger, was just slightly bigger to go over the frame. Because right now, Luffy's hands are smaller than Usopp's finger, but Usopp's finger is almost inside the frame, while Luffy's are not. Same with the staff down here. Also just make the foot a little bit smaller. Same with Zoro's. I like the colors. I like the poses of all the characters. I'm not sure I like his choice of making the background blue. This is the first one that did that. The other ones have a white background. I do know why he did it, because he chose white for the map, and there would have just been too much white. But I think the blue contrasts and clashes with Nami's designed shirt and Luffy's pants. And I just don't think it separates the foreground from the background as well as the other ones did. This one gets a high D, our first D tier. All black with some nice red text at the bottom. Black cat, everything in frame, good poses from all of our main characters. White background, really bringing the black suits forward. Black map design. No clear tangents. I don't think it's the best, but I don't think it's the worst either. We're gonna give it a high C tier. I do like the colors on this one a lot. Volume 7. There's a cute, I'm not sure if that's a dolphin or a shark, but he's clearly eating some meat. Everything contained in the frame. Fairly simple design. A little bit awkward here with Luffy's hand cutting off this portion and that portion, with Sanji staying in this portion. Usually would have the character coming a bit further down so it's in both quadrants. I also think that the shark is slightly awkward in its placing. It almost looks like a sticker that was just placed on the volume. There's no waves or splashes happening. He's just kind of there. I think it's just a little bit awkward. And I also think his colors are hard to see. It's a very deep, dark blue. Now, Brache is one of my favorite early arcs, but I don't think this is one of my favorite covers. I will give it a C tier as well. C tier for volume 7. Okay, I really love the colors on this one. They do remind me of volume 4 a little in its coloring, with contrasting yellow and blue, really bringing the foreground and the background together. Simple frame breaks, Luffy's leg Craig's. I do like that choice with Craig coming over the frame as well. I think it would have been weird if it was cut off like that. This allows him to be imposing, an imposing villain on the cover. Maybe the only negatives are you get a slightly large amount of white space with Craig's fur shoulder pads. It almost acts like a massive target that your eye just goes to. But I really love the coloring here in the background with the blues and the yellow map. I don't think this is as good as our top picks so far, which are Volume 2 and 3 at B tier, so I will give this another high C. Now this is a very interesting cover, his very first real different one, with 4 different frames in the middle instead of the usual 1, 2, 3, 4. I will say the first thing negative is maybe the colors are all slightly similar, so they sort of clash with everyone, especially the yellow background of the sky and the similar tones of Nami and the Straw Hats, but I'm hesitant to say it doesn't work. I think it's a very unique cover. I love that the tangerine is on Nami's forehead at the top above the frames. I do think the silhouette or side view of Nami does work. I don't know if the very large rock works. I will give him points for being different for this one, and I'm hesitant to say it doesn't work, because I do think this is a strong cover. Is it enough to break into the B category? You know what, yeah, I'll give it a low B tier for 9. And now we're back to covers staying inside their frame where they belong. I think the blue of the map background was a good choice. I do think all the colors work. I do love Luffy's pose. I'm not sure if the sea cow at the bottom was a good choice, but there is a very small Hachi as well in the background, so it does kind of match. It just feels a bit awkward sitting all the way down here, but I guess it would just be Arlong's pecs, so maybe he wanted to cover those up. Should have covered up Ju's lips. That would have been nice for everybody. I like the illustrations a lot, actually. The coloring looks a little bit more dynamic, actually. A lot more highlights and shadows. I don't know how well the blue, the harsh blue of the matte background works. I think it's a little bit oppressive. Maybe a lighter, or maybe even a darker color would have fit the imposing nature of this volume cover. I think actually having Luffy frame broken here would have worked and would have added a lot more dynamic posing to the cover, maybe even adding the sea cow So our heroes and cute animals, were frame broken, and the enemies stayed within the frame. Could have worked. But as of right now, I'll give this one a low C. Okay, we have over 100 volumes to get through, and we're only on volume 11. So we have got to get going much quicker through these volumes. That being said, volume 11 is very good. I think the colors work extremely well. I love how pink and hot pink and red warms are all used here. Things I would have changed, maybe have Sanji's smoke a bit bigger going off the page. Right now it just sort of ends in a weird spot. And I think I would have made literally everyone a bit larger. Have Luffy, his hat over there, Sanji's leg go over. Just make everyone slightly larger. And I think that would have made this volume even better. But as of right now, I don't think it gets into the B category because I don't think it's as good as 2, 3, or volume 9. So I'll put it at the high C. Now, volume 12. The orangey blue volume 12. I think this is a very dynamic cover. But I do have problems with it. Again, I would have made Luffy bigger, so he's going over the frame. Right now, Zoro is for some reason the only one chosen to frame break, when Sanji could have easily have also been the same. Plus the Mary coming up here, and Luffy should have absolutely broken the frame. I do think the illustration is great. Colors are fantastic. Just those few changes could have gotten it into the B category. Now, is this the worst cover so far? Yes, absolutely. I don't know what is going on with this cover. Way too many quadrants. Way too many lines. Just vertical and horizontal lines everywhere. For some reason, I've always thought that it looked like Luffy was sitting on the Baroque Works agent head here. I always thought it was her hat was somehow Luffy. I just think it's so awkwardly placed. And the unluckies, the otter and the vulture here, are just super tiny with some, for some reason, large black dark squares here. I just think it's slightly ugly. Is it an F? Yeah. I just think there's really weird choices with all these vertical lines and quadrants. Especially, what is this little tiny thing here? Tiny triangles. That's our first F. First F for volume 13. Volume 14, much better. Oda comes back with a right hook and smacks us in the face with a very good cover, actually. Good choice for blue, good choice of red, good choice of green. So you get a lot of complementary contrasting colors all going in a circle, like it's hypnotizing you, just like the red hypnotizing lines in the background. Good Good choice to make our villains in monochrome green. Good frame breaking with 3 makes him be extremely imposing. Having our heroes frame broken and the rest of the villains contained with just his 3, an ever imposing factor. I think this is a strong cover. I will actually give it a B tier. B tier for volume 14. I feel like it's been a long time since I've seen this cover, and I'm not sure I like it. I think Luffy is just slightly weird here with half his body. I guess he's sliding. I think I would have made him just a little bit further down. As of right now, it's really clashing with this line here. But I do like that the giants, Dory and Broggy, are breaking here with their faces. A monochrome color in the background. I do think that works. It's very symmetrical, which is cool. Although I'm not sure I like this going behind the title. I think it's a good idea, but as of right now, the colors are sort of meshing together with the P and the E sort of being lost. Now, I know you wouldn't have the weapons overlaid because it would cover the title, but as of right now, the way he colored it, it basically looks like it is covering the title. I think what I would have done to make this better was make the title a different color so it stands out more compared to the background's purple. I think the more you look at it from far away, the more a lot of the detail gets lost. And I think that's mainly a choice in color problem, because I think it's a pretty good drawing. I think I would have just changed Luffy to be further down. So I'm going to give this a lost at the bottom of D. Volume 15 is a D. And then we come back with a really strong volume 16. First introduction to Chopper, and he's on a very good cover. First time seeing yellow as the background. Good choice to make the background white so the black stands out. I don't think it's really a problem that Luke's jacket is black. I think blending it into the pirate flag is kind of cool, actually, with his coat kind of looking like the pirate flag. I do like that. Everything is frame broken very nicely. Chopper's looking cute. Colors all stand out. Looking at it from far away, yeah, everything stands out and is able to be read very easily. I'm going to give this one a B as well. Volume 16 is a B. Okay, this one is really weird. I don't know why the frame is so skinny. It looks almost like a printing error. What the heck? I don't know why it's so small. Which is unfortunate because I think it's a good drawing. I think just making everything bigger would have made it look better. Again, for some reason, Sanji's smoke just ends here. I think just making it go over would be better. Or at least not having such a harsh cut. it's not as bad, but it is still odd. I don't think it's D. I don't think it's B, based on what are in those categories right now. So I'm gonna give this low C, just for looking like a printing error. And we're back to our distinctly different frames, almost looking like panels of a manga, like volume 9. I don't think this is as strong as volume 9 because Nami in volume 9 was overlaid super large. I think if Ace was slightly bigger, I think it would look a little bit better. I don't know if I like this color for the map. I think everyone's drawn well. I do like the color, the uniform color of the sky being this type of yellow. That was a good choice. Everybody stands out against that color, unlike the Nami color. But I don't think this is as strong as volume 9. I'm going to also give this one a C. I think it's good, but yeah, slightly boring. Not as good as volume 9. This is a good cover. Everyone stands out in a unique pose. Good choice of green. No character is lost in another because of a similar color. Monochrome style for the background and King Cobra. It is a bit awkward for the gun to be cutting his mouth in half. Luffy being frame broken here is cool. I think there's just slight problems for it to get into the B category with all of our strongest so far. Looking at all these volumes now, I might have been a little bit harsh with my ranking, but the standard has now been set that volume 2, 3, and 9, as well as 16, are in the B category, and those are our strongest so far, and I don't think this one is as strong, so I will give it a high C. This one is weird. I like it and hate it at the same time. I think it's very unique. I love the colors. But I'm not sure what this triangle thing here is and why it's looking like it's attacking Ku, who's screaming very loudly. I do like everyone's shadow being in orange. I just think this is really weird. Harsh triangle lines. But the colors are great. I just think it's, looking at it, it's very, very dynamic in the coloring. I love the oranges. It's just really weirdly drawn. I feel like I'm being very harsh now, so hopefully we'll get an A cover soon, but I'm gonna give this a D, just based on all the other ones we've ranked so far. And just for being slightly odd. D tier for volume 20. Okay, that is absolutely fantastic. These are easily our best covers so far. I love choice of filling up the space with a connecting circle right into the middle, creating a circle when you combine the volumes. Everyone is clearly seen. Nobody is pushed into the background. I love this frame break with crocodiles. Hand here, frame break up here, upon clay. Luffy's hat is slightly, just a bit slightly too small, but that's okay. Let's just dust off these covers, because there are clearly our two best, very iconic poses. Are they so good that they are better than our leading covers in the B category? Yes. Are they good enough to jump the A category into the S tier? You know what? Why not? Let's put them right in S. S tier for volume 21 and 22. Okay, now this is an effective use of vertical and horizontal lines, not like the Abomination. That was volume 13. This is much better. Everyone stands out. Phoebe's in the front, frame broken with all her friends in the background. Blue was a good choice to match her hair. I think this is pretty strong. I don't think it's as good as 2 and 3, which is my threshold now. I have them sitting right beside me, so I know what they look like, and if any volume beats it, or is in that category. But I think I'm gonna put it at the low B. I think it's strong. And I do like maybe front and center. If you look at it from far away, everything's clearly shown very well. It looks like the volume of a manga, and that's good. Volume 23, low B tier. I don't like the coloring. It looks very pastel. Everything is slightly too light. Everything and fades into the background's colors. I think Robin is too awkward here in sort of Bellamy's cape. This red line here looks weird. I didn't even notice it, but you can see this gorilla guy's leg very subtly, same color as this guy's hand. No, I don't like this one. I think the illustration style, everything just looks like it's faded. Like this volume has been sitting out in the sun for too long and got sunburnt and faded in the sun. And Robin's awkward head, and everyone just having very similar colors, all blending into this mishmash of arms and legs. Nope, don't like it. This is getting a low D tier. Low D tier for volume 24. I don't really understand why this goat is like floating in midair. It looks like he's on Blackbeard's shoulder. It's just oddly placed. I think everybody is just slightly posing in a weird and awkward way. Luffy and Blackbeard are small. Shanks is quite large. And then there's this weird guy who I don't even know who that is. He doesn't look recognizable to me at all, and I've read One Piece a few times through. I don't know who that is. He's looking a little bit creepy, like a ghost. And you got this cave here that's like almost flesh tone. Bucky's doing jazz hands for some reason. And the goat is just sitting on Blackbeard's shoulder for some reason. No. I don't think the colors help in any way here. I think they blend way too much right here. I'm also going to give this one a D. I've kind of talked my way into giving it a D. Volume 25 is a D. And now volume 26 is much better. Look how cute Chopper is with his little watermelon drink. Just drinking and gulping all that down. I think this is similar to volume 5, which I have right here conveniently. But I think it's a better version of 5. You have Luffy jumping up in the air, Nami on the right, everyone else in the background, and Chopper on the bottom. But the frame breaking is much, much better here. It's almost like everything I said and criticized Volume 5 for being this one fixed all of those criticisms perfectly. I think it's strong. I think it's really strong. I like the palm tree behind the title. Yeah, this one's really good. I think it's a really good cover of all of our Straw Hats. I think it's probably the best one so far of all of our Straw Hats. Just in terms of a cover design. There might be more iconic imagery, but I'm rating a manga cover here. I can't immediately see any criticisms, to be honest. Everyone stands out well. No one blends into the background. Everyone is clearly in a well-defined pose. Maybe Robin is slightly in the background, but I think that fits for her character in this arc. So I can't criticize that. Love the fluffy clouds. I'm gonna give this one an A. I think it might be better than a B. Our first A, volume 26, A tier. My first reaction is to say I don't like it. I'm not a fan of this color. I think it's kind of an awkward, weird in-between of a gray and a blue and a purple. I don't think it really matches the green text. Everyone's background here is too dark. I do like the posing of everyone. But to be honest, this is actually a good example of a cover that I think is designed well, but colored in the wrong way. I think if the colors stood out more, I think this would highlight Oda's art much better. Maybe some nice contrasting complementary colors between the background and the title. Maybe have Luffy in more of bright tones. He's a little bit dark, especially at the bottom. And then maybe a monochromatic background with some highlights of our antagonists. Yeah. I think the colors, unfortunately, screw up what is essentially a pretty well-designed cover. I'm gonna give this one a D tier. D tier for volume 27. Volume 28. Pretty good. I don't really remember it, which is weird. I feel like some of these you have to be ranking them in terms of memorability. And covers you clearly remember definitely stand out to you in your mind. But I think this is actually not a bad cover. I like the statue at the bottom. I think the 5 Skypia people stand out fairly well. I do like how he made the 4 straw hats and the 5 down here different sizes, so they stand out. And I love that the tree is in the background. It's a very foresty looking cover. I think if you look at it from far away, everything does sort of blend together, so I don't think it's as strong as our B tier. So I'll give it a C, high C tier for volume 28. And now I'm going to rank volume 30 and 29 together because I think they're absolutely fantastic covers. Strong colors. Love the snake wrapping around at the bottom. Love that design. This one almost looks like a tarot card with Eniru and Luffy at the bottom and a completely different frame, actually. Sort of an ornamental design. Love that. Love the yellow. Love the white. Everything is easily seen. Every character stands out. Gonfall, super dynamic. The snake, great colors. Perfect. These are great covers. I think I might even give them S tier, to be honest. I was going to give them an A, but I think I'm talking myself into an S, similarly to volume 21 and 22. Skypia's 2 S tier covers. Really, really strong. Wow. I have to really look at this one because I'm not sure what I would give it on first viewing. When I first saw it, I thought, it's not great. But I don't know, it does work. I do like the different frame he uses here. The snake stands out in the background. I love our Straw Hat sitting down on a carpet reading a book. Chopper, of course, looking cute. I like Sanji's expression. Just looking up, all peaceful. I think it's good. I think the only thing I actually don't like might be the color of this background. I think the brown is slightly too muted. I think I would have liked to have seen it be a different color. And I think if it was a different color, it would get a B tier. The design of this really makes it look like a children's storybook, which I really like. A good theme, to be honest, for this volume, with the flashback of Nolan. Yeah, I think if it had a different background color, it would have been a B, but right now it's a high C tier. I don't think it's as good as anything in the B tier. So, high C for volume 31. Now, just because he went back to going inside the frame doesn't mean it's bad. I'm not going to knock a cover for going inside the frame. I think sometimes it works thematically and design-wise. Does this work thematically and design-wise? Yeah. I guess. I don't think it's the most iconic cover. Now it's easy to criticize a drawing in hindsight. For example, I know that this squid is holding the ship up. You can see its tentacles here. I would have liked to have seen maybe the tentacles coming down. Holding the boat outside the frame. Or if not that, then have the tentacle go here, maybe here, and then maybe have this section be all sky. So it looks like there's a vast sky they're flying through. I think one of those would have worked. Now, Oda might have tried that, and it looks stupid. So it's easy to criticize something without doing it yourself, and maybe it just didn't work. But as of right now, I think this is also a C tier. C tier for volume No, this is a D. I don't think keeping the illustration in the frame while having some weird fire, very not well designed or detailed fire, works. I think it just feels like an afterthought almost. I don't like this color. I think it poorly contrasts with what's inside. I think a lot of the details get lost at the bottom here. No. I think when you're doing a illustration inside the frame, it needs to be less busy, especially if you're going to have busy map design outside. It just looks like everything is stuck in its quadrant. I think volume 6, with everybody sitting down in their suits, is a much more simpler design for a illustration in a box, almost looking like a portrait. This one is designed like it should be frame broken, but is stuck in a frame with how detailed everything is. It shouldn't be. I'm going to give this one also a D. I don't think it's an F, but it's very weirdly designed, especially with this odd fire. That is very weird and just looks like an afterthought and really contrasts and clashes with the same color as the sky. D tier for volume 33. Volume 34 is a better version of volume 27 with much better coloring, much more bright, much better background, much more contrasting colors. So I'm going to give this one a C tier. Volume 34 is a C tier. Volume 35 is incredibly strong. Love the coloring on Frankie's costume. The blues really stand out with the stars. Luffy and Usopp, very dynamic in their posing. Love the moon's color. Frankie's sister. In the background, I just realized that his other sister is right there. You can see her eye right there. That is super weird. And for that, a otherwise quite possibly S tier cover, I think I can't give it that. So I'll put it at top of A. A tier for volume 35. A tier. Strong cover design for a manga. Love the fire in the background. Love the pink choice for the map. The mysterious antagonists all standing except for a very awkward CP9 member flying. I don't know if that was a good choice. Her hands are just in an awkward spot right on Luffy's forehead. I think maybe just having her standing would have been fine, but she had to be dramatic for some reason. It just comes off as awkward because everybody else is in a cool pose. So your eye sees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people standing at attention. So you're not used to seeing a character who's also upside down, flying. It just looks like an awkward pose. I think it works sometimes. I don't think it works here. But I think the art and all the color choices are good. So I'm going to give it the low C. Low C for volume tier cover in Water 7, Volume 34. Absolutely love the colors. This is sort of what I was getting at with that Skypia cover when I said to frame break the sky so it looks fast and cuts the top half and the bottom half. He did it here with the water, and I think it works really well. Our characters running, and the water highlighting them really nicely, with Iceberg and Frankie posed in the background, and Water 7's fountain rising to the sky. Really good cover design, absolutely highlighted by some stellar choice in color. And the sea train riding the waves, breaking the top half and the bottom half. Extremely strong cover. Cool colors, warm colors on the people. Everything is perfect. All the art rules are followed to a T. Fantastic. Volume 37 gets an S tier. S tier for Volume 37. This is really good. I love the colors, love the poses. Everyone's in a unique pose, especially Sanji, showcasing his crotch to everybody. I like that he's black in black clothes. Highlights a nice silhouette there. I don't think it's as strong as the last cover. I think this is an A tier cover. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. I just don't think it's as good. I think the train's steam engine here gets a little bit lost in the background. I do like Sanji's pose. I think it frames Luffy nicely. So having nothing wrong with it, how can I not give it an S? Because I don't want to. This, to me, comes off as an A tier cover. A tier for Volume 38. It's my list. I rate it based on feels. Volume 39. Volume 39, Water 7. I kind of like what he's going for here. Everyone in the background is sort of a monochrome beige gray color to highlight the three, Frankie, Luffy, Zoro in the foreground. I think it's another strong cover. I think we're in a bit of a streak here. No real problems. Zoro's swords are in a good spot. Frankie, his arms. Finally, something is covering the title. I think that is always a cool choice. But usually you can do that now when you're at Volume 39. People know what manga this is. So it's kind of a rule that is only meant to be broken later. I think it's a strong cover. Our characters are in a different, more detailed color in the background. 4 characters in the background, easily seen. 3 in the foreground, easily seen. I'm going to give it an A. No notes. A, no notes. I think we have officially entered a hot streak because this is another well-designed cover. I like the colors of the map, the background. I think making it the same color as the title, is a good choice. I like the red background with the black lines. I think the giants are easily seen. The judge with his 3 heads. Bluno, all in black, being our antagonist. Luffy in gear 2. All steamy. Some criticisms, maybe it's a bit messy, and some of the giants and judge aren't that well differentiated, especially in the middle there. But I think it's really good. I'm going to give it a B tier. B tier for volume 40. Still in our hot streak, we have volume 41. A nice warm color tone with some cool steam effects in the background. Nice overlay with Sniper King. This is a time when I actually think that the tangent of Luffy's foot here, I think actually works. It anchors him to the middle of the image, mainly because this portion has the frame covered. So it's sort of a contrasting spot here, but it's a good anchor. The silver hair is a nice contrast to the warm tone on this side and to the black outfit of Robin. Opposite sides, in between, Luffy posing without his face, Sniper King not showing his face, looking back. Strong cover. I think this one is a little bit better than the last. I'm going to give this a low A tier for volume 41. We are clearly in the strong cover era right now, volume 41. Low A. And we are continuing this streak with 2 yin and yang contrasting colors, black and white. Very similar to the Alabasta covers, volumes 21 and 22. Almost referencing them, we have our villains on one side and our heroes on the other. Now, this one doesn't have the effect that connects them, so it's not as unique as that Alabasta cover. But these two, very strong. I love the white, love the black. Love that they're all in suits. CP9. Everyone is clearly seen. Even the small ones here are highlighted by the pink hair. Very good choice. So they stand out. Again, you have the elephant overlaid on the One Piece title. Over here, Chopper's hands are behind the title. Sanji looks like he's kicking it. Everyone's pose is really good. This is the time when the fire effect isn't weird and awkward. Unlike that Long Ring Long Land volume cover we went through and saw. Frame break, really nice in every location, no tangent. Frame breaks here, you can't even see the frame. Rob Lucci in the front, Luffy in the front. Very strong covers, not as good as the Alabasta ones. So we will give it A tier. A tier for both 42 and 43. That is the longest streak of A tiers this one continue the streak? Unfortunately, no. Because this is an S tier, iconic cover. Absolutely fantastic. Only 3 characters on the front, but they are posed in absolutely super dynamic ways, with the looming cannon of the Buster Call in the background, and Robin looking just look at that cover. You can really see it from a mile away. Fantastic. Love the colors. Our 2 fighters blocked by Robin. You also have a circular effect behind her, leading to a very interesting spot. No complaints. Fantastic cover. This is an S tier cover. S tier for volume 41. Let's just dust it off just a little bit. Dust it off just a little bit. Stop dusting off. Well, it had to happen eventually. Our streak has been destroyed and stopped in its tracks. Good things I can say about it, at least. I do like that it's a circular frame that's unique. It does circle your eye into Luffy, and his punch is very dynamic. Garp, Gobi, and El Meppo outside the frame. It's cool. His fire, Ace's fire, outside the frame. Now, it's not as bad as volume 13, which I have right here. Both sort of similar in their design. Quadrants for each person on the volume. This one is definitely better. But I still do not like some of the placement and composition of the characters in the frame. There's a lot of empty, odd black space behind each person. I don't really like Blackbeard's position really at all. It's kind of awkward. I do like Luffy though. He's much better placed. Looking back at this one, it's really bad. I do like Luffy. And this one we gave an F, our only F tier so far. This one is not an F. Clearly, looking side by side, you can tell that it's much better, and he got much better at doing these quadrant cover designs. So we will give volume 45, I think it's a safe C tier. I think it's safe in C. I still don't really like quadrant designs on these covers. Maybe he can prove me wrong in later volumes if there is another one. But it's a clear step up from this F tier design. C tier for volume 45. C tier. Thriller Bark, One Piece volume 46. Another good example of what I think he should have done with that Skypia cover. Here we have the moon outside the frame, all in the background. What he should have done with the sky in that volume. Also a good example of the backgrounds having tons of characters, just like that Long Ring Long Land volume, but this time not as cluttered, because the frame break adds a nice bit of contrast, much needed contrast, to that messy, large amount of crowds in the background. spacier, but I think it works because of the moon being so omnipresent. Chopper looking cute as fucking hell. Good frame breaks here with our characters. Good coloring that clearly outlines every zombie. I think I would have just had the castle in the background slightly bigger so it takes up some of this empty space. But overall, a very good cover. And I think the colors really enhance this cover a lot. Yellow and blue, warm at the top, slightly cooler in the background, and then warm again at the bottom. Very good. A tier for volume 46. A tier. I feel like I have been halted in my tracks with a confuse ray because I don't know if I like it or hate it. I'm on the side of liking it. I like the colors a lot. I feel like it looks like a nice gothic artwork with all of that pink and purple and black and dark blue. Very fitting for this arc, Thriller Bark. I like how Luffy is clearly the odd one out with a night golden outfit contrasting with our ghostly characters in the back. I do like the stripes, black and white stripes in the background. Now, why I was confused was because it's slightly messy and cluttered. I'm still not a big fan of small characters just awkwardly placed on shoulders and odd spots just to fill up space. But I do have a slight soft spot for this cover. I don't think it's a B, so I'm going to give it a C. C tier for volume 47. And I am confused again. I don't know if I hate it or like it. Unlike the last one, I think I'm leaning towards not liking it. I think it's just slightly awkward. I don't like the overly amount of fleshy tones. I think maybe just making this a bit more of a more pronounced color would make it feel a little bit more appealing as a cover. Now I know it's a zombie skin. I know he's supposed to be fleshed out. But it's a cover. You can stylize and use different colors that don't match to enhance a cover. I'm not the biggest fan of Luffy's face being right here. It looks like there's a lot of black. The blue is good. I think it works. I think it has the opposite problem of the last volume. This one is not cluttered. There's only 2 characters, but I don't think the colors are as nice and stand out or pop as well. I do think it's slightly awkward in the middle here, but I think I'll also give this one a C. C tier for volume 48. C tier. I think this is another C tier. I think when you first see it, it's good, but then you start noticing some slight awkwardness that isn't as good. Specifically, this here. I think it's just super awkward. It's funny as hell. I do like combining to make a robot style straw hat is funny, with Usopp being the weapon. But I'm not a big fan of small, super tiny characters floating around on a cover with pink mist in the background. It's just very cluttered here, very cluttered. I like blue zombie Luffy, white Nami, plus the white Moria right here. Very cool. I think the background being monochrome, good choice. I just don't think I'm a big fan of this positioning for our characters. They all get very lost there. I think if this was just another character here, I think this would be a very strong cover. I like the red and the green in the background. Luffy being blue, white for Nami, white for Moria, monochrome background, and just another larger character here. I think it would have worked. Now I'm going to remove my hand, and you tell me if I'm right, if it looks messy. Yes. Not really this top part, but definitely down here it just looks super messy. To me anyway. And this is my list, so I will give it a low C tier, with the only problem being this part here. Low C. Okay, we sort of have our quadrant panel structure again. Still not the biggest fan, but this is unique because One Piece, the title is in a different spot. Very different. It's completely different from every single other volume we've seen so far. I do like the purple, and I do like the red with black. I'm not a fan of why there's just a random Nami eye here. I think maybe if you just did the panel all the way over and just had her in this pose, I think it would get rid of this weird eye. Not sure why that's there. I do like the Jolly Roger on fire. The red monochrome background is very, very gothic. Very fitting. It's not bad. Again, if I think you get rid of this, maybe have her fully in the panel, would add a nice symmetry to it. Right now there's just a weird Nami eye looking at me. So for that, I will give it a low C. We are on a streak of C tiers at the moment, so let's see if anything can break us out of it. And immediately it does. 2 volumes, 51 and 52. Very similar to each other. You have the 11 supernova characters with an X in the background, and you have our Straw Hats plus Rayleigh in volume 52 with a pink background. Doing a cover with a bunch of characters is always extremely hard. You have to make sure everyone's pose is absolutely perfect or it starts looking cluttered and messy. And I think he did this fantastically for both. Everyone is perfectly seen. You have an interesting frame, almost a circular design, and the more simple frame in this one. And both work extremely well, especially with all the colors. It's also hard when you have so many characters to do coloring correctly. You want to make sure everybody stands out and doesn't get lost in each other's colors. So you have to make sure everybody has a unique color that also contrasts each other, but also doesn't stand out too much. No real criticisms for these 2 covers. I think they're strong. I think they're both A tier. A tier for 51 and 52. Volume 52. Good, but a little cluttered. I really do love the the rainbow of the snakes really makes your eye move around the page or the canvas. The Black Panther is just a little slightly awkwardly sitting there. The snakes are easily seen. I love that the snake wraps around her chair. I think everybody stands out quite well, actually. I think this is a B. And this is a strong B. Yeah, strong B for 53. Strong B. Volume 54 and 55. Two very similar covers again, with sort of an X as its composition. I think both have strong aspects and some weak aspects. I think 55 has slightly too cluttered and messy amount of limbs happening, but I do like that it makes the X with Luffy in front. Ace is awkward here, a diamond shape, and then makes it a little bit cluttered here. I do like the 3-piece here. I think Ace is just slightly awkward. It looks like he's trying to burn. It looks like Oda is trying to burn the page right here with Ace being revealed behind it. This one is slightly less cluttered with Impel down behind all the characters. You have chains making an X, Luffy coming out of the page, so he did sort of a similar page breaking with Luffy coming out and Ace being burned behind. Magellan overlooking with the other 3 jailers in sort of a 4 circular motion around the page. And some more peace for good measure up top. I like the color of the background of both, to be honest. Which one's your favorite? My favorite of these two, probably 54. I think this one's just a little bit awkward, but I do like the X on both. Volume 54 gets a B. Volume 55 gets a high C. Okay, we got another sort of quadrant volume going on, and again, I don't like it. I don't like that there's just a random panel here. I do like everybody here. Ivankov, Luffy, Crocodile, Jinbei, looking up at us. I like the foreshortening effect. Everybody, cobblestone on the background, so he went back to a frame. Not sure why he chose to make 2 people framed here with blue background, sort of conflicting with Ivankov's hair. I do like that it's more simple than the last 2. I just think these 2 are slightly awkward. I might have just had them standing with them as well. Sort of a X again, going with the same theme as the last 2. And then you get rid of these weird panels. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people standing, looking at us, ready to battle. So I think this is a high D. Unfortunately, a high D tier for 56. Paramount War, One Piece, Volume 57. I think this is a fantastic cover with a one glaring issue. I love Luffy in color with Whitebeard pirates all in monochrome blue. I love Whitebeard being super pronounced super large with this massive mustache. And I like the black of his Jolly Roger in the background. I also love the one piece in orange, contrasting with Luffy down here. Some type of symmetry. Everything stands out. The fire in the background's perfect. White of the background has Whitebeard standing out. The one problem I have is I don't like the two mustaches. The two half-moon mustaches. I think the second one just looks weird, and it adds sort of a rhythmic effect where you see it twice, and I just don't think it works. I think your eye sees a very pronounced white, bold white color, and it just looks like horns on his head. To be honest, I think I would have just taken this out. But otherwise, I think it's a strong cover. I think it's strong enough to get an A tier. I think it could be higher if it got rid of these two mustaches with one awkwardly placed right by his head. A tier for 57. A tier. Another panel quadrant drawing. He's still not as bad as volume 13. I do like the gradient of the background. I think that's really strong. I do like how every admiral is a different central color. Blue for Aokiji, red for Akainu, and yellow for Kizaru. I just think that these two are a little bit awkward here. I don't think it's the worst quadrant version. I like how Luffy is clearly cutting the frame in half here, so you don't have to have a giant rectangular line. It's a good, subtle way of cutting the frames in half. I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's the best. I'm gonna give it a low C tier. Low C tier for 58. Okay, if you have your eyes closed and sleeping, take a look at this cover. Tell me if anything stands out or if everything is lost and blended and messed up together in a bunch of red. I don't even know where Luffy's body begins and Ace's flames begin. Strongest aspect of this is Whitebeard's pole and Jinbei being blue up here. I don't think Jinbei should be the one that's clearly almost emphasized just because he's blue. He stands out the most, but he stands out the most because he's a different color between everything else. I think it's a good drawing, and I like the idea of what he was going for, but in hindsight, I don't think it works because everything is slightly lost, and nothing stands out except for Jinbei's blue face in the corner. I think this is a good drawing, again, with the colors unfortunately messing it up slightly. I'm gonna give this one a D. D tier for volume 59. D tier. Volume 60 is a direct contrast to the last one. Everybody stands out well. Everybody's highlighted correctly. Even though there's a lot of green, every character is colored and placed in a way where they are clearly seen. Love the frame breaking. Love the contrasting color between green these are sort of a similar color to Luffy's shirt here. I don't think it's too bad, but that might be one negative there. Now this cover does something similar to what the last cover in the Paramount War arc that had a quadrant style with Garp on this side and Sengoku on this side, but Oda does something incredibly smart by not making it a quadrant panel. They are breaking out of their own frames with the background still this green. It makes it so there's no anchor at the bottom. Everyone looks like they belong in the same composition. Very strong. I'm going to give it an A tier. A tier for volume 60. Now volume 61 is very unique. It's a clear homage to volume 1 with the new Straw Hats all on board, when before it was just Luffy, Nami, and Zoro. Very cute. Very good idea. I don't like the cover. I'm not a big fan of the cover breaking out. I know why he did it. It's to show that the Straw Hats are expanding and growing. But I'm not the biggest fan of blocking off the cover into sections. I think it would have honestly been better if he just kept the frame but have people breaking out of it. Would have kept it from being sectioned off. I think the idea is cool and the theme around it is cool. Just not my favorite. I'm gonna give it a low C tier. Low C tier for volume 61. Okay, we're gonna go a little bit faster here on these next few because this video is getting a bit long and I'm rambling on a little too long, so let's go just a little bit faster, shall we? Volume 62, too messy. Way too many characters. I think it's cute, but way too many characters. Luffy does stand out. It's nice to look at. It's almost like a Where's Waldo? Where are all the fish people? There's no real place for your eye to move around the page. It goes around in much different directions. So I'm going to give this a low C. I don't think it's as bad as a D, but I do think it's messy. C tier for volume 61. Love the color. Definitely not as messy. A little bit too much of a similar color here, so Fisher Tiger doesn't stand out that much. I think Zoro needed to be a bit more over this way. Luffy over this way as well. The shark's too squished. I do like how Shirahoshi is going over the frame and into the cover. I think it's not bad. I think it's a high C. I think where the other one was messy, this one is just a slightly boring high C. It looks like the theme of the New World is messy because volume 64 is a classic Straw Hat-centric cover with lots of characters, unfortunately slightly messy. Now if you remember what I said about the Sabaudi Archipelago covers, everything that I said that could go wrong in a lot of characters on a cover went wrong here. Lots of blending of colors. Everyone blends in the background here. There's a lot of weird negative space behind people here. Sanji is just awkward in this spot. Brooke is awkward up here. And you can barely even see Frankie's robot form in the background here because it just looks like black blobs. Unfortunately, I'm going to give this cover a D tier. D tier for 64. I think the top half of this cover is fantastic and the bottom is terrible. really nice coloring, really nice colors, really nice illustration, really nice positioned. I love the prints here, cutting the page in half. Luffy with his fire looks dynamic, but then you have a bunch of weird people just sort of standing around with some awkward negative space just littered throughout the bottom here. Lots of random colors, just very cluttered. I do like that it's circular with Luffy's attack, but the bottom unfortunately ruins this one. I think the top half is an A, bottom half is a D, so unfortunately put those together and you get a C. C tier for 65. Okay, we got some quadrants again. This is very similar to the post-war arc, the circular post-war arc cover 45. I think this one is slightly better. I do like the rainbow. I do like how these characters are breaking out of their frame so it's not so quadrant heavy. I do like Luffy and Jinbei sitting back to back. I do think it sort of works. Here, it's not bad. There's some nice light colors here that breaks up the whites and yellows. I do think it's awkward that there's some coral just sitting here in its own frame behind Shirahoshi. I don't think it's a D. I don't think it's a B. It's the same as the last volume 45. This is a C tier again. I know I said I was gonna start going fast, but I guess I like to blabber a lot when it comes to manga art. So I'm going to keep trying to speed up the pace. We are on volume 67 here. I've been talking all night already. So let's try to speed up this process, shall we? Volume 67. I love the stripes. Purple and black. Ganemon's head. Super well done. Super well seen. With the wings highlighting it. Black on the straw hats to anchor it. Characters are clearly seen. This is a good cover. Not messy at all. Low B. Low B tier. Love the colors. Look at that cover. Absolutely phenomenal. Love it. Love the circular motion of Caesar's sort of white smoke. Really super cool idea to make a panel of the characters' faces with their bodies outside the frame. This might be an S. I absolutely love the colors here. I love that there's snow on the title. Just looking at it from far away, it's so dynamic. Love it. S tier for 68. We broke out of that streak of C's and D's with those last two covers. 68 gets an S. Now, unfortunately, 69 isn't as strong as the last cover. It is similar in its design to the one before it, volume 67, but it's not as good. It doesn't have these stripes in the background. It doesn't really have anything anchoring it. Everyone sort of gets lost in either the smoke here, small characters here getting lost. Toshiki is a little bit awkward, super far down. Momonosuke is squiggling here, and you got a portrait side view of Trafalgar Law with a very small little child just hanging out here. Don't think it's very good. I hesitate to give it a D because I feel like none of these later ones are real Ds because they really frame break and are very dynamic, but sometimes when that happens they're a little bit messy. I don't think it's a D. I'll give it a C, 69, C. Now, looking back at my list, it looks like I've given a lot of C's. It looks like that's where One Piece is at the moment now. A One Piece C is some other manga's A. Like I look at Fairy Tail up there, every cover in One Piece is better than Fairy Tail's covers. So it's only comparable when we're comparing the actual other covers in this series. So this cover is basically better than anything Fairy Tail put out. But is it a fantastic One Piece cover? No. Is it a bad One Piece cover? No. It's somewhere in the middle, and that's where most of these manga will stay, somewhere in the middle. Again, I think the top half is better than the bottom half. Looks like he tried to anchor the cover, but he anchored it with just too many people, and they all get sort of lost. But I love the colors, and I love the top half here. I think it's fantastic. Unfortunately, it's a tale of two halves again. If I was rating this, the top half would be an A, bottom half just slightly lost, but I guess not too bad. I'll give this one a B, low B for volume 70. Just to show you how far we've come, this is an S tier from volume 30. 40 volumes later, we got a quadrant. It's not bad, but this is what we're looking for, an S tier cover. Unfortunately, characters get lost again when you do so many. And nothing really stands out too much. I do like the idea of what he's going for here. Don't think it's bad. I think this is fucking weird. Why is there just a random triangle right here as a panel? That's a little bit of a pet peeve there. Again, another random thing here. And I think the statue is just a little bit awkwardly placed again. Very similar to the fire on that just god-awful Long Ring Longland cover. But again, not as bad. But not an S tier. This is I'm gonna feel it out here. This one is a D. A D cover. D for 71. The most unremarkable cover you will ever see. This guy is too big, you can't even see the frame. So it's just kind of people just in a frame pose with no frame. Everyone's sort of in a rectangle shape with no rectangle. Just a little bit weird. I think I would have had the frame just here a little bit. This guy coming out a bit this way. And I think it would have been a little bit better. And we have similar colors to volume 60, but absolutely not as good as volume 60. This one is also, unfortunately, a C. I feel like I'm giving just so many C's. Let's compare it to a very early B. No. I was right. I should have just trusted myself. Yep. This is clearly better than this one. This, I gave a B. This is a C. There's just a lot of C covers when you give this one a B. You can even see how strong this absolutely is compared to this one. A lot of characters get lost here. Two characters, dynamic pose, great coloring over the rectangle, great background color, everything stands out. B, I'm going to give it a D. I think it's just a little bit generic. It's probably the most generic cover so far. Now, there's going to be those when you have 72 volumes. 72 gets a D. Pause. Future Reigning Souls here, currently editing this video and realizing I was very harsh on some of the volumes I put in the C tier. I think it stems from the fact that I put the very strong Volume 3 in the B tier and was comparing subsequent volumes to that one. So I will move Volume 3 up to the A tier, and the stronger high C tier volumes will move into the B tier. Back to the video. Okay, I think we've come to the era where every cover sort of has the same idea. Lots of characters posing in just sort of generic ways. You got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, with people at the bottom, different color. Oda sort of did a factory style with these covers. Now, are they bad? I don't think they're bad. I think this one might be the best. I like the white of Pika anchoring the bottom. This one does have a star, which is really cool. This one is clearly the worst, with just a bunch of people, straw hats at the bottom. I think it's a bit awkward. It's very vertical, especially with the jail prison bars at the top. I think this one is easy to read. I think this one gets a little bit lost here, but it's not bad. Everyone's easily seen. I think whatever this is at the back, I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Is this Pika's arms? Just a random flesh tone here. So I think this one's definitely a D. Lots of pink here, red here, just fluff happening. The bars, I think, are awkward, and the people at the bottom, a little bit messy. This one, I think this one's a low B. I think it's good. Nothing fantastic, but I think it's a low B. This one is a C. Just a little bit awkward with his arms being flesh tone here. I do like the star. It really anchors these characters. There's no real problems with this one. D, C, B, D, C, B, D, C, B. Volume 76 is a volume that I like the idea of, but don't quite like the execution of it. I love the circular idea of designing a cover with characters being different, monochrome colors leading up to these two in the middle being their own separate color. I think the only problem I really have with it is there's some real awkward negative space here with just heads floating above this negative space. It looks a little bit awkward, but I really like the idea of it. I think it's very dynamic, although it's slightly too similar in color now that I'm looking at it right here. The negatives for this cover are all right here. I think maybe making a different background. Now, again, this is all in hindsight. He might have tried a bunch of different things here, but with everybody being a different color, any color in the background would have somehow made one of these characters fade into it, like what's happening here. Idea-wise, I like it. I'm gonna give it my usual C grade. C for 76. And now we come to volume 77 and 78, two more parallel connecting covers, very similar in its design, like the other ones we have. Our antagonists on one, and our protagonists on the other. This is probably the weakest of the parallel, similar covers. I think there is just a bunch of stuff happening here. This one, now, it is messy, but it's pretty impressive that you can see everybody. pretty hard to do to make everybody at least stand out. Here, to me, is just a little bit messy, and I think it's because of Doflamingo's feathers he's got going on. Just a lot happening here. I think this is when Oda's covers start to get just a little bit too cluttered, with so many different characters on them. I think both of them are of similar rank to each other. Both of them have somewhat of a similar problem. In their execution, not standing out too many characters, nothing being super dynamic. Unfortunately, I can't give these a B. I don't really want to give them a C because I've given literally everything a C. Are they bad enough to be a D? You could give the argument that they are. These both will be getting D tier for 77 and 78. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 volumes here from 79 to 86 that all are very similar to each other. All are the exact same composition and idea, with maybe 82 and 85 standing out just a little bit more. A bunch of characters in poses, 3 heads, 79, C tier. A bunch of characters posed slightly. What the hell is that? Why is there just this random guy's head in a panel right here? Lots of random panels. Okay, just for that, that's a D. 81, I do like the camouflage type coloring in the background, but again, there's just way too many characters and no one's allowed to stand out. Very similar to his panel structure in these later arcs. Nothing is allowed to stand out and be dynamic. Just a ton of characters blending in with a ton of other characters. 81 is a D. Okay, I really do like this one. I like that Vivi is monochrome and blue. Blending in sort of with the background, it does work actually because she is overlaid on the title back with the background. I like how everybody else is in a nice circular motion. In different, almost rainbow colors. Everybody stands out. Nobody blends with each other. This is good. This is a B. 82. B. 82. 83. A just rainbow of Skittles. It's fun to look at. Again, like a Where's Waldo, looking at all the different characters and different setting and different amorphous trees. I do think One Piece is slightly, the title is slightly subtle and way too into the background. Almost like Oda ate a bunch of Skittles and threw it up all over the page and made a cover. It's pretty impressive that he made a cover from that. So, C tier. And volume 84 is the most generic cover I have ever seen. You've got the 5 Power Rangers at the bottom, and just 2 big heads, Luffy and Sanji. Not the greatest background color, and a very almost grossly colored One Piece title at the top. And this volume is supposed to symbolize the versus fight between Sanji and Luffy. Now let's look back at volume 35 to see what Oda did for the Luffy Usopp fight. Look at the contrast between these two volumes. Very dynamic, very boring and blah in both color and composition and pose wise. Strong, not strong, D tier for volume 84. D tier. This one is much better, at least in terms of color. I love the green and light green and white color of the background. Such a unique color, I love it. I love to look at it, it just looks nice. It also makes the One Piece title color, which is very similar to the last one, stand out much more. It doesn't look as gross. Now you do have just disembodied heads at the bottom here. Chopper almost looks like he's drawn with a different marker than everyone else, which is slightly weird. It actually almost looks like he was taken from a panel, enlarged, and then drawn over again. It's a little bit odd, but I do love the colors. I think things slightly blend into the background. There are some odd choices at the bottom here. I'll give it a C. High C. No, I think maybe low B. I do really like the colors of this. Some awkward design choices, but I do think this one stands out. Low B tier for 85. Low B. Volume 86. Title is slightly lost again. I think if you just made it blue, like the silhouette of Luffy here for the eye, I think it would have stand out a lot more. Very generic characters at the top. I do love these three guys here. I think again, it's a tale of two halves. I think the bottom half is pretty good. Top half is quite boring, to be honest. I do think the anchor of Sanji and Pudding in white at their wedding is nice. I'm not sure it needed the line here. I think it could have just continued and used just the frame and then continued the cake, the wedding cake, down here with this color. That's what I would have done. I think it would have looked a little bit better. I think there are some strong stuff and some bad stuff. I am going to give it a D. I think it's mainly because of the top here. You gotta at least be able to see the title, guys. You can't see the title from far away. That's a knock against it, even if I do think what's happening here is fairly strong. High D for volume 86. Volume 87 is pretty good. It does continue the streak that Oda is just insisting on of doing a ton of characters just at the bottom, plus having them be super tiny for some reason. He's really got that Where's Waldo book and just taken everything from it. I do like how Big Mom is at the top here. I love the blue color of the sun and the cloud and Big Mom in pink. I think the pink and the blue and the yellow here really contrast nicely. I don't think it's the worst assortment of characters at the bottom. And I think similarly to the Thriller Bark Moon, the top is slightly empty to emphasize the bottom's large amount of characters. So I do think it works fairly well. definitely tried doing something different again with a breaking of a mirror aesthetic for his quadrant version. This is a really good quadrant panel style cover. I think it works because of the colors, actually. You have our straw hats in color, and more of the side characters in a monochrome inside the frame, with Carrot in her new form, highlighted by the moon, and the moon at the background. I think this is strong, actually. I might have done the color of the title in a slightly different color. I think that's the only thing, and it would have stood out more and made this portion of the manga slightly more dramatic, whereas right now it kind of recedes into the background and makes the top just a little bit empty. But overall, a pretty good, strong, and unique cover. I'm gonna give it a low B. I think it's pretty good. I like it a lot. Volume 88, low B. And another strong cover with 89. He finally has a cover where there's only 2 characters. Good job, Oda. With blacks at the top and a reddish black near the bottom with the mirror. Luffy's face, the mirror. Katakuri face with him fighting, breaking out of the frame. Frame is stuck in the background. Perfect. This is great. This is a really good cover. Is it an S? I'm not sure. You know what? I'll throw Whole Cake Island a bone here. I'm gonna give it an S. I think it's good. It's kind of cool that his hand is actually going this way. His arm shoots out here and I guess goes around and comes back here. That's cool. I didn't notice that before. Yeah, this is an S. I like it a lot. It's really strong. Looks like he had a lot of fun with it. Like it. S for 89. And then we come to quite possibly my least favorite cover right after an S tier cover. I don't think it's as bad as 13's quadrants, but this is just a very generic cover. We got a circle of different people and Luffy's bounty in the middle with the swords and the empty throne in the background. Don't like the colors. This doesn't even really look like an Oda volume cover. It looks like a special, 2-page comic book you can get at, McDonald's from a Happy Meal. Like someone just grabbed a bunch of panels of characters, put them in a circle, took Luffy's bounty, put it in the middle, and then grabbed a random stock photo to put in the background. Unfortunately for that, I'm gonna give it an F. I feel like that might be a bit harsh. I don't know if it's as bad as 13, but it's just very generic and doesn't even look like a volume cover. I'm gonna give it an F. No, I think that's too harsh. I'll give it a low D. It doesn't break any art rules. So for that, I'll give it a low D. Okay, our first cover of Wano, and I like it just because of Chopper being a ninja. I think it's got some cool colors. I think it's a little bit awkward down here. Now, I know that this isn't really Oda's fault because I don't think the number in Japanese is pasted right here super large, so I think that she actually would be seen, so I'm not going to put that and fault it against him. think it's a little cluttered. Everyone is seen, though. For some reason, Nami's the only one that's in a panel here. Disembodied. Body cut in half. A little bit awkward. I think what would have made this cover better is just to have her part of the team here in a pose. If you wanted to add Robin as well, put her down here. Just a bit odd to have a panel structure there. But I like the colors. I think it's super unique in terms of its background. Pretty good cover. I'll give it a C tier for 91. And again, we have a bunch of covers: 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, that are all very similar. Seems like since Dressrosa, Oda has a similar cover structure. He seems to like adding a bunch of characters with lines and panels all throughout, some breaking the frame, some in a frame. I think to make this one slightly better, I just would have reversed these two panels. Now I know why he didn't do it, because Luffy and Kid are more in the front and they're more of the main characters of this volume. But there is this awkward background here at the bottom that I think is just super weirdly placed. If you reversed it, have these two at the bottom here, sort of like this, and then these four characters right here. I do like Kaido's dragon form slithering throughout the background. Really highlights the red, blue, red, warm, cool. But I don't like these lines. It cuts the page too much and it makes this weird background very noticeable with a negative space. I'm gonna give this one a D tier for 92, even though I do like what is happening up here a lot. I think it's hindered, again, by the bottom half and these sharp horizontal lines. Volume 92, D tier. 93, incredibly generic cover. I've said everything about this cover before. People in a random pose, hanging out inside and outside the frame. Nothing special about this one. Very generic cover. I'm gonna add a bunch of generic sounds to it, so I can at least add some triggers to a otherwise quite boring cover. This is a D tier cover for 93. 94, another slightly generic cover, but I do think this one is a little bit better than the last two. You got Kaido and Big Mom in the background looking like they're about to fight. Our cute Chopper and other colorful cast of characters at the bottom. No annoying horizontal lines. Less generic than the last one. This one's going in the C tier. C tier for 94. Look at that little cute Chopper in his samurai outfit. Who the hell told this guy he could fight? He's way too small. This is a good cover. I like that the background is in a gradient style with reds and orange and purples for Shanks and Big Mom, and blues and greens for Kaido and Blackbeard. Had sort of a warmth at the top and a cool at the bottom with Chopper, Luffy, and Brook. You know what? This is very similar to volume 39. quite similar, actually. This is a good way of seeing Oda's different art style now. He uses a little bit more thicker inking on his characters. This one has much thinner line work, much thicker line work. I do think 95 has a more unique gradient for the background characters, and I like that the background of the map is also in a gradient. I'm not sure which one I like more. I think they're both fairly good. I gave volume 39 an A, so I will also give 95 an A. Very similar, and I like both of them. And we're back to a bunch of characters in awkward poses, and I immediately do not like what's going on over here. Just a massive amount of empty space. All you had to do was move Marco here, have his blue wings and fire in the background, trailing fire. He's like super awkward right by Whitebeard's shoulder, and there's this bunch of empty space. The rest of the page doesn't really have much interesting going on either. This is a D. Low D for 96. Okay, slightly better. 97. I am kind of liking the geometric quadrants here. It's unique, and you only have 3 people here. Clearly defined. Slightly boring background. Nothing really stands out though, but nothing is inherently egregious. I'll give this one a low C. 97. Low C. I'm really liking what he's doing recently with the gradients. Love it. Love the blue monochrome gradient here with Yamato and Luffy in clear color with white for the minks in the background and white here. Love it. It's very similar to the Whitebeard 2 mustache cover with its coloring here. This one is great. I love it. Every character is well defined, and it's okay that all these characters are similar colors because they're more so highlight how colorful these characters are. They slip into the background like they're supposed to, with the color in the center with Luffy and Yamato, and then white highlighting and contrasting the rest at the bottom. Fantastic. I'm gonna give this one also, I don't know, I'm just feeling an A for it. 98. A tier. And then we come to the grand 99, 100, 101. The 3 cover connected volumes. Very cool, very cool. I just wish they were better designed. It's still Oda's love of a bunch of different characters in poses, all on the cover, doing absolutely nothing unique. However, it is cool that all the volumes connect, and that's possibly why they're in slightly simple poses. You can't really do unique, crazy, dynamic poses when you're trying to connect 3 different volumes. It's fairly hard to do that, so I can't fault them for doing that. This is unique. Although separate, they are fairly boring covers. But for the cute fun factor, I'll give each volume a C. Connected, they get an A. So, where do I put them on the tier list? I'll put them all in B, because separately they're about low C. Together they're an A, so in between, that's It's a B. 102. First reaction. Love, love, love the colors. Everyone is sort of in a dynamic pose without being very dynamic, which is interesting how he pulled that off. Not a big fan of the negative space in the middle. I don't really... Wait, what is going on here? Why is the frame all the way up here? It doesn't match here. The frame would have to be over here. That is weird. I think he accidentally made the frame too big on this side. Super weird, because I think it would actually look better if it was cut in half here. I do love Kaido's silhouette in black up here. Nice black in certain portions of the page. Makes your eye go around the page. I do like that Momonosuke is outside the frame here. Awkward negative space makes it look like everybody was pasted on the page. Like you drew Zoro separately, placed him here, drew Sanji, placed him here, drew Luffy, placed him here. It feels like everybody was just placed and wasn't designed in a cohesive manner. But I do like the colors, so I'll give this one a low C. 102, low C. Okay, something unique going on. We're breaking out of the bunch of characters in a pose covers. We got a big moon. Big, just opaque, solid moon with Luffy in the center. I do love the purple color shading the characters at the bottom. I think this is cute. I think it's good. I'm not sure what's going on with... Again, he had to add just a panel here. Why? Why is he in a box? Just, you can have him here. It's like he thought, like, oh, Kaido and Trafalgar and Kid won't be together, so I have to have them in a panel if they're together and near each other. It's a cover. You can have them in the same place. It doesn't matter. It's just weird that he did that. But this is good. This is a B. High B for 103. High B for 103. Another unique cover. Hopefully we're getting out of the streak of having everybody sort of just posing and just a ton of characters in awkward poses. I like the greens. I like One Piece in this color. I like the white of the map with blue gradient. I do think it's a little bit awkward having Onigashima or the temple so low to the ground. I do like Momonosuke. I think he's filling up the space nicely. I do think Luffy is perfect where he is, right in the middle. Slightly awkward with how big her head is. I think it's good though. I think it's unique. I think everything works well. Momonosuke does sort of blend in with this a little bit, but that's okay. I'll give this one also a low B. 104, low B. Nothing really to be said on this one. It's just a generic cover. It's just three. Every single time Bucky's on a cover, he seems to be doing jazz hands. I do like the black of Blackbeard, and I do like it contrasting with Luffy's Gear 5. Carrot being cute in the middle. We got Sanji. Sorry, Shanks. Again, Shanks seems to always be on the cover just looking the same pose. I feel like I've seen him doing this exact same pose like a million times. Color is good, not great. I do like the blues though. Blues are nice. Everyone's drawn well. You can see there's only 5 people. There's not too many. Slightly generic though. I'm gonna give it a low C. I don't know if it's a D It is a D. Buggy jazz hands and Shanks doing the exact same pose. Let them do something different. It's a D. High D for 105. Yes! Something different. Yes! We're doing it, Oda. I love it. I love it. It's really good. Really fits the futuristic Egghead arc. Love Chopper in his spaceman outfit, already iconic. Everybody's looking great. A little bit messy at the bottom, but I'll let it pass. I'll let it pass. You got whites in the background. No frame this time on anything. That's cool. Got Egghead in the background with blue background. Futuristic background at the bottom, anchored very nicely. Luffy punching up at Egghead's egg. White background really brings everybody forward. Not too messy even on the bottom buildings there. I like it a little bit too small on Sanji, but I can let that pass. I like it. This is an A. 106. A. 106 gets an A. And then we're right back to a very simple standard cover. This is very, very standard, very generic. I mean, I do like the flag and I do like Garp's arm being raised, but everyone's just kind of just doing their classic thing. Luffy is running again. He seems to always be running in these types of covers. You got Sabo, Revolutionary Army, El Meppo there. Got the weird Toucan Sam thing. D for generic. I don't think it's as strong as some of the others. I'm being a little bit more harsh now on these because we've seen so many of these now that just being unique is helpful. So going back to something so generic, just show me something unique now, and you can get up in the rankings. 107D. Oda has done so many covers now that it must be really, really hard to just figure out something to do. I'm not liking this one. I don't like the colors. They just look a little bit gross. I think this should have just been a more brighter yellow. It looks like green and yellow, and that never looks great. Even people here, I can't even make out Sanji. Sanji is there, but you can't even really see him. He blends right into everything. No, this is not good. This is another D. I mean, I do like the light effects happening. A slight cool gradient, but no. No, this is another D. D, 108, D. Okay. I do like Luffy being right in the title there. That's cool. I like the color of the title. I like the background pink. I do love Kuma and Bonnie being so pronounced with the smoke moving your eye into the middle of them. I think I would have had Kizaru more over here, slightly bigger to fill up this space. Vegapunk, that's a good spot. Good spot, good spot. Maybe just a little bit more of the buildings being here. It's a little bit weird and off the edge of the page, so I think I would have just had Kizaru here, and this would have been probably a B. As of right now, C tier for 109. C tier. Well, we've come to the last 3 volumes, volume 110, 111, and 112, with 112 being the start of the Elbaf arc, even though this is clearly an Elbaf cover. Out of these 3, which one do you think stands out the most? If you were to walk into a manga bookstore, which one would catch your eye more? this one quite strong, with the axe being red, overlaid with a green background. This one has a strong silhouette with the fire. I do think this one stands out the most, but I think this one is a better designed cover. I don't really like what's happening here. It looks slightly awkward. But again, I also don't like the yellow negative space. But it does silhouette our main characters pretty well. This one is at least unique. I like Luffy's hands going in a circle. It's cute. With the giants upside down. That's cool. Well, I think this one's the most generic. These two are better designed. I think this one is standing out just slightly more than this one. Low C, B, and low B for the start of Elbaf. And with that, we have come to the end of our 112 One Piece volume ranking. These are all the S tier manga covers that Oda has produced. Some absolutely fantastic manga covers. Not too many F tiers, to be honest, with a lot of C tiers, some B's, and a few A's sprinkled in. And remember, a generic or C tier, B tier, One Piece manga cover is another manga's A tier. One Piece has some fairly consistently well-designed covers, but comparing them together, some are better than others, and some have to be D or C or B. They can't all be S, and I hope I have given a reasonable explanation for my rankings, but please let me know where I got it wrong, which one I gave an S to but should have given a C, which one I've given a C but should have been an S. Please let me know in the comments whenever you wake up. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, maybe subscribe. I do have lots more manga ASMR planned in the future. This is Raining Souls ASMR, signing off until next time.